My name's Alex Myers. I'm an artist and professor. I teach at Creighton University in the Computer Science, Design, and Journalism department. I teach design. I'm one of 3 faculty there. My focus is in interactive media and digital art. I have an MFA from the Frank Moore Institute, which is in the Netherlands. My MFA is in interactive media and environments. I did it a long time ago. I've been making art for almost 2 decades now at this point. And I've shown all over the world, the Middle East, Europe, Australia, North America, South America, kind of everywhere. So I'm just going to share my desktop and kind of walk you guys through some of my work and talk about my processes, show you some of the work that I've done over the past year that isn't necessarily on my website, and kind of wing it. And I'll take questions as we're going. So if there are questions, if you see anything or want to know more about a specific thing, just holler, and the moderator will get the questions to me. So, all right. Share my screen, sound, and there we go. All right, you should see my desktop now. Pull some stuff out here. So this is my website. It's just alexmyers.info. Sorry, a little distracted. I've been making weird digital art-based things for a really, really long time. I got my start doing like interactive fiction, gosh, a long time ago. I started making like games that just use text and don't use visuals, and playing around with those ideas and kind of like what it means to read the description of something that you try to form that picture in your mind versus seeing it, and then making those things interactive. And that was back in undergrad. I did my undergrad at UNO, and so I was like writing these games and presenting them as art back in 2006 and 2007, and having a lot of fun doing it. You know, it was kind of started me on my journey of using the tools that developers use to make games in order to make art. So, you know, this series of projects up here is chronological, starting with the most recent and then scrolling all the way down to kind of the past. Generally, when I do this, I sort of bounce around a little bit and talk about projects. Things I've been doing recently, I work a lot in 3D modeling. I found a passion for 3D modeling several years ago. This was a residency that I did for a place in Philadelphia called the Spectacular House. They have this gate gallery. This is actually, I forgot this was on here. This is actually, if you open up this page on your phone, an iPhone or an Android, this is an AR model that you can have pop up in your space. So you can use your camera and have it projected out in space, and there's an animation that goes with it and everything. But I did this residency for a month, and I made these 3 different animations for it. There's no sound, I don't think. They're just looping animations. But all of this is stuff that I build in Blender, which is an open source 3D modeling program. I get really interested in simulations, so like wind simulations, fluid simulations, kind of just animations. Seeing these things really big, you know, lets you see the detail. They're generally when I show these things in galleries, they're presented on giant 55-inch television screens, and they loop. Can't really loop them in the browser here. Oh, we can. Okay, I'll loop them here. So you see I've got a fire simulation, a different light. All these, I like complex works that have lots of different elements and layers to them that encourage and reward careful and prolonged viewing. I don't want to just bounce off of it. I want to be able to like stare at it for a while and get different ideas from it and notice different things about it. I mean, this is stuff I made a year and a half ago, and I still come back to it and look at them and notice things that I'd forgotten that I put in them. Like I forget that there's like a tiny little person here and another one here. you know, they have these little animations they're going through and these feelings and emotions that they have. So these little vignettes are indicative of the kinds of things I make when I'm making non-interactive work. You know, I work with motion capture libraries or motion capture technologies. A lot of these are just the same technologies that game designers and developers use when they're putting their stuff together, or even special effects artists for movies. It's all the same processes and workflows. I'm just doing it in a very, you know, my output is just very, very different. Sorry, I haven't looked at these for a while, so they're a little mesmerizing. I'll do this one here. You know, I really like symbolism in my works. I like to pair the mundane with the fantastical. There's always, I never really start from a place of knowing exactly what I'm trying to say or what I'm trying to do, but I try to be very attuned to the feelings I get when I'm working on these pieces and what I'm attracted to. And I collect massive amounts of inspiration. I have huge libraries of you know, folders full of just images, stuff that I think is interesting that influences then the things that I end up making. And they all kind of tie into these. And as you know, indicative of this process, like I have these three here. I can kind of show you a little behind the scenes. I remember where I put them. Oh, gate. So I did those three works, and in order to get to those three works, I don't think I have, oh, they're right here, sorry. In order to get to those three works, I mean, this was all stuff I was working on at that time. These are all just different files and experiments and sketches and, you know, just going through all this iteration. And so it's like, to get to these three refined pieces, I probably had 15 or 20 that I threw out, you know, that I started that didn't go where I wanted them to go, or kind of stalled halfway through for whatever reason, and then I just moved on. So you know, there's a lot of churn. There's a lot of just like failure involved with ending up with work that you really like. One of the other things I did in 2019 that I was really proud of was I curated a small three-person show at a local art space here in town called Project. It's a phenomenal art space on Vinton, 17th and Vinton, run by Josh Powell and Joel Damon. It's an amazing space for experimental art. They do all kinds of crazy stuff. But I was one of the exhibitors in the show, and then along with Oria Harvey and Bay Kid Dead from Des Moines. And the idea of the show, it was called Death Has a Small Voice. And the idea for the show was to present sculptural work at miniature scale. So I created all of these, I call them paradise dolls. And they're essentially like little Mr. Potato Head figures. They're all 3D printed, and they have articulated joints and magnet joints. And you can kind of, the magnetic joints act as access points to be able to swap out different pieces and different parts. And so they're really configurable. You know, anywhere that they don't have an articulated joint, like down here on the ends of the thighs of the hands, those can be swapped out with like the head or the antlers, or there were a whole bunch of different kinds of hats and stuff that I made for them. And this is a 3D scan of myself. I was using part of myself as a model. This is another figure I made where, you know, this is the body and the torso and everything is me, but then I had a found 3D model of a head. This is the wing from the Nike of Samothrace. This is some random skull, I think by Rodin. That's my head. You know, so there's a lot of like that collage. My background is in collage, and that a lot of that process comes through in the work that I make now. Kind of see this here, two-headed figure with arms. And then the environments are laser cut ruins. Some of the ruins are actual ruins, built from pictures. Others are ruins that I just made myself. But I am really attracted to the idea of as the ruin of a symbol of decay and death, and that factored into it. And I wanted to make these really stark, contrasted, almost stage set-like environments for these figures to be in. And they're super configurable. They're all interchangeable. You can set them up differently each time. along with the pieces to go along with that same idea. So you can kind of see that. So I was really happy with the show. It turned out really, really well. And that was just my contributions to the show. I think Project has more images of the show, of everybody else's work on the show too. But it was great. It's probably one of the best shows, or my favorite shows that I've ever been a part of. And not just because I curated it. The 3D printing stuff has been a lot of fun to do, though. I've been doing a lot with that lately. Some other work I've done, I got really interested in the idea of, so there's a tradition of the sort of modified piano or modified instrument in Dada art, and also like John Cage was doing a lot of this kind of work. And I started thinking, well, what would it take, or what would it look like, and what would it feel like to modify popular game controllers? So like the Wii, the Wiimote is meant to be really light and really easy to move around. And I was like, okay, well, what if you attach a 20-pound chain to that? And I just tried to stick with the sort of bright colors and playing around with how does it feel to kind of interrupt where all these really ergonomic and specifically designed and very, like, there's a lot of thought that goes into making these controllers. What if I just mess with that? What if I just mess it up and introduce interruptions and anomalies? How does that change the playing experience of anything, right? Like, I could use these for art games, or they could be used for regular video games. I mean, the idea is not that they're to make them easier to use. The idea is to just make the experience very different. So these were a lot of fun. I went through a bunch of different iterations of these, just finding random stuff. I zip tied one of the controllers to do a permanent drift, and a right stick drift. This is like aquarium, fake aquarium plants, just whatever. I was going to pet stores and craft stores and just buying buckets of stuff. And it changes it, it makes it really a weird experience and very, very different. Sadly, I've never exhibited those. Some other things, I like to take existing games and change them or add things to them to make the experience of them very, very different. So kind of along the same vein of interruptions. This piece is called Human Terrain Systems, and I showed this in Buenos Aires in 2018 as part of a big festival down there. But I took all of these randomly generated models in all these different poses that come with this pose library, and I built a mod or an asset pack for a popular city simulation game called City Skylines. And in this game, you can add your own assets. You can make your own buildings, you can make your own trees, you can make your own cars, whatever. And I started replacing all of the trees in the world with these figures of these people. The conceptual aspect of this piece comes from this now defunct doctrine of the US military called human terrain. And the idea behind human terrain was to deploy sociologists and other social science academics with frontline troops to help train the troops into maneuvering and using the local populations to their benefit. So figuring out what their customs are and then helping to get intel and information. And it just seemed like such an interesting and kind of abhorrent practice to then treat people, because the whole write-up of the doctrine is treating people as another landscape of warfare. Not just as elements or tools of warfare, but as the place in which the battle happens. And I became really, really obsessed with this idea. And so through playing with, through playing this, there's some sound. This is in-game sound. I didn't add this. So these models I drop in, I'm just replacing them as trees, and the trees already come with some set animations. And the system is advanced enough that it just pops those animations onto these models and creates these really amazing, emergent, waving, frond-like, kind of creepy figures. And then the sounds of the wind, and there's some, like, I think it's procedural sound effects happening. I don't know. It was pure happenstance that this sort of work came out of it, but that's what comes from playing around and just sort of experimenting with stuff, which is what a lot of my practice is. So these are in the asset editor. These are considered parks. So these are parks of trees of children shielding their faces. So yeah, why not, right? I've shown these a couple of places. Argentina, I showed them here in town as part of Bear Hug, which was something that Joel and Josh from Project started. So this piece has had legs and gone through lots of iterations over the years. And you can actually download it on the Steam Workshop, the asset packs. Not very many people do, so that's art for you. These are animations and images along the same lines as the ones I showed earlier, playing with these environments, playing with just different simulation elements, different animations. I had them printed as banners, so they fluttered in the wind, or tapestries, and they fluttered in the wind and moved in the space. This was part of a show I did at Project several years ago, I think 2017. There's also an iOS sticker pack of art assets that I made for this work that you can download and use in messages. This is kind of a fun way to do it. I try to find these niche areas or these different little ways to kind of take things that are commonplace, or I try to put my art into these spaces that you wouldn't normally expect to find art in, or these methods and modes. Here's some more tapestries. This is my daughter. She's now 8. I think she was 3 or 4 I think 4 at the time. This was in Lincoln at Tugboat. Some other animations that came with it. Some of the other things I've done in the past, I was an art director for a virtual reality music video. I worked with 2D Array, which is a local studio. We did a music video for the Icky Blossoms. It won Best Interactive Music Video at the Austin Music Video Festival a couple years ago. Here's just a snippet of some of the assets I did for it. And then there's a 360 YouTube video that you can check out and look at if you want to. It was a lot of fun. It was a big process. We worked on it for a really, really long time. And the other guys, 2D Array, did such a great job with it. I just art directed it. I just decided on the aesthetic, helped them figure it out, made a bunch of assets, and they put it all together and made it work. Some of the other things I've done, I do data visualizations. This is a series I've been working on for a long time, but these are renderings taken from, and yeah, stick with me on this. These are renderings that I make in Blender, and how I get these shapes is I have this whole dump of cell phone and pager intercepts, so like messages that people were sending from the island of Manhattan, so from Manhattan on 9/11. During the hours in which the towers were coming down. And I converted all of the text data, so all the letters and all the symbols, I've converted it all over to numbers. And then I've grouped those numbers into sequences of 3 groups. So like 8 numbers would be one group, and 8 numbers another group, and 8 numbers another group. And in 3D space, you need X, Y, and Z in order to find a point. And that's how you define your shapes, a series of points, and then characteristics that connect those points. And so then I take all of these like millions of numbers and I dump them into a 3D scan, a 3D model, not a scan, sorry, a 3D model of my head. And it makes it look like this when I open it in Blender. So this is all that information, all the messages people were sending each other on 9/11 dumped into my head, and kind of just what that looks like. And I'm doing it in 15-minute increments. So each of these pictures is 15 minutes of messages dumped in. And like this sort of like effect, this cross-hatching and the shading, that's all in Blender. I've done nothing to these. I put a light in there in the world to light it, to give it shadow. But all of that texture is created by all of these impossible shapes and planes fighting each other, like just being right on top of each other. It creates some just amazing images. Yeah, I come back and do a couple of these every now and then. I have so much data. I'd be doing these for years and years and years. So when I feel strong enough to, I come back and make more of it. Other things I've done, this is a multiplayer video game that I made, or art game that I made for a solo show and residency that I had at an art gallery in the Netherlands called MP3. Nothing of this is ours. It's for 4 people only. You can only have 4 people in it. You can download it from my itch page. It's still running. It's been running since 2014. And every now and then there are people in it. I'll play a little clip of it, maybe. Their sound is just quiet. So it's a series of interconnected worlds, and snippets of poetry and clues, and there's, if you watch the number at the bottom, it'll change every now and then. There's kind of like a counter. There's like special figures you have to find. And it's really meant to just be a kind of at your own pace, surreal exploration of these different spaces that I put together, these different compositions. They all interact in different ways. It was really fun. I worked on it for a really, really long time, and it was great to have the residency to be able to focus on it. I do weird things too. Oh, this is one of my favorite pieces. This came about as I was watching my daughter, my now 8-year-old. I have 5 kids, so there's a lot. But I was watching my daughter learn how to feed herself. And so I made an art game about it. And in this piece, it's kind of loud, I'm gonna turn it down. She was 1.
All the things, eat all the things, eat all
the camera's inside the mouth. The bowl that moves the hand is controlled by each of the joints in the hand, the fingers, the thumb, the wrist, the elbow. They're all controlled by different keys on the keyboard. You have to hit them on the right sequence. You have to learn how to hit them in the right sequence in order to get the hand to close, grab and pull stuff, put stuff in the hand. So it becomes this like feat of coordination to try to get everything in your face. And while you're eating stuff, the whole constantly fills, it makes a huge mess. And eventually it makes such a big mess that the program there's too much stuff going on. So the program just shuts itself off. There's no other way to end it besides turning it off. This was a lot of fun, and it came about really quickly because the idea for it was pretty simple. It also I showed it, or it became part of a experimental public art platform at a bus stop in the Netherlands that had a touchscreen, and it was installed in 2014. This is one of the first pieces that was installed on it, so I had to convert it over to touchscreen controls, and that was an interesting experience. And then it was also shown as part of this Activator exhibition in December 2017. So it's gotten around. It's a really fun piece. I like showing it. I do some collaborations and work with other people quite a bit. One of my favorite people to work with is Jeff Thompson. He's out of New Jersey now. He teaches at Boken, or Stevens Institute in Boken. He used to teach at UNL. When he was here, we started building these haptic video games. And essentially it was like video games that you could feel but not see. And this is going along those lines of the interactive fiction games that I was making that had no visuals, just text. And so we have a D-pad. Jeff designed all the circuitry and I did the software. We have a D-pad microcontroller where everything lived. This is the battery, and this is the cell phone vibrator. And the vibrator would vibrate in different patterns and different rhythms according to the type of material that you were walking on or walking around or into. And one of the concept or the setting was like you've been blinded and thrown into a dungeon, and you have to find your way out. And you eventually find your way out through many, many levels to find out you're on an island alone. And you walk into the surf, and that's the end of it. It's a lot of fun. We showed this kind of all over the place. We showed it in Toronto. We showed it in Argentina, at Buenos Aires, festival down there. It was a really fun piece. It was a lot of fun to do. So, there's been lots of crazy stuff over the years. More art games. These were like experiments in Unity. Some of this stuff came about from a game jam an art game jam that Jeff and I used to run. We ran for 5 years, where we spent 12 hours just trying to put something together and get it to work. And so you find a lot of ways to just like hack it and throw it together, and that always leads to really interesting experiments, and you find ways of doing things that you wouldn't normally. So I created again another bunch of worlds that were all connected to each other. And this figure that you're moving around, finding things to interact with, and seeing what happens. And, it's very different from like a video game in the sense that there's no overt objective. There's really no dialogue. The only thing it shares is the mode and the tools, and maybe like the presentation a little bit. I did a bunch of others kind of like that. Like this was a game I made in a week. I was giving myself this challenge of making an art game a week, and I called this one Me and You. And you can still play it. Actually, let's see if this works. I don't know if this is going to work. Nope. Well, I have to install it. I'm not going to do that. But anyway, it's a split screen. It doesn't always look like it's split screen to begin with, but you have two cubes that are the same size. One cube is trying to get big cubes, and the other cube is trying to get little cubes. And the thing you kind of discover as you're playing is that the cubes are connected to each other by a spring. So the more that one cube moves over here to get what they want, the more they pull the other cube away from what they want. And when I made this, I was newly married and kind of struggling with coming to terms with what that meant and responsibilities and all that stuff. And I didn't realize it at the time that I made it, but this was definitely about that relationship and kind of how all that stuff was going. It's only been in the last couple of years that I've really like looked at it again and realized that. But there's a timer, and the goal is to get to the 42 points. 42 things, which was just sort of a joke. I needed to end it somewhere. Yeah, there's so much here. This was some stuff I made a long time ago using Unity again, and playing around with a Wiimote controller and like cranking the sensitivity of the Wiimote controller so that any little movement would make the whole world flip. There's some really terrible photos of it, but I got to show this displayed on a window at a space in Midtown called Peerless that used to be a gallery space that used to be down there. And the idea was that you controlled this little cube here, and by pushing this cube into different things, it would like flip, which would show you new text because there was text hidden under stuff. It would also like explode slowly different parts of the world, which would then reveal more text. And it was like this emergent story that would kind of come together in a very haphazard manner. But you had to move really, really slowly and really, really carefully because the sensitivity of the Wiimote was really, really cranked. When I got started doing stuff, I was building these really elaborate sculptures in sort of light. This might be a little loud. So the shadow plays out of Kinects, kids' toys, and being really interested in kind of like the overlap of the shadow and the motion and the movement of it, but also, you know, the sort of chaos of this big system moving in all these different ways, and sort of how that feels and what it means. And then I was playing around with allegories of like cities and the people in the cities, and interconnectedness and all that. The relationships that get set up between different ideas, societies. Like these move in different ways, and the interesting thing is like over time as these run in an exhibition, this plastic is not meant to hold weight for this long, like for a month or whatever, and so it would start to sag. It would lose its it would lose its stability, and so like this sculpture in particular, at the end of this, was just like drooping. It could barely move, and it was going through batteries like crazy. There were hand cranked elements that could come up and crank the other elements to get all this stuff to move. So it really became interesting that like this city over here, I didn't have to change the batteries that much because this motion is pretty easy. There's not a lot of energy expended in achieving this sort of movement in this motion. There's not a lot of weight pushed onto the structure, and so it survived a lot longer and was in better shape at the end of the exhibition. And I thought that kind of entropy was interesting. And of course, playing with shadows and stuff. So this was in the Bemis Underground, and that was still a thing. Two other pieces I really liked that I did a long time ago. I took a bunch of Game Boy SPs and I modified the screens, hacked the screens to short out how they displayed the information. But I was able to do this in a way that didn't actually affect the games. So there is logical consistency. It just is not displayed that way. So you can still play a game. You just got to kind of learn like what the sizes and everything means, or the sizes of the pixels. I showed this. This is an exhibition in Toronto. I made a special table for it. So the black, silver, and blue one have the glitched out screens, and the red one has a regular screen, and they're all playing Doom 2 Deathmatch. So this one is essentially able to hunt these two and be able to see everything as it's meant to be seen, whereas these guys have to figure out quickly what they're looking at and understand it. And I wanted that pressure of a deathmatch environment, like a game where they're hunting each other. I wanted that pressure to kind of help focus and force them to figure it out really quickly. And you play it long enough, you can figure it out. She got really good, actually. This was an exhibition in the Netherlands, and she was able to decipher this and figure it out and get in there and stay alive for a while. It was pretty great to watch. So yeah, that was a really fun piece. And then one of the first, what I consider super successful art games I made was I made a custom map and asset pack for CounterStrike Source, which is a first-person military shooter game way back when. And in it pits a team of terrorists and counter-terrorists together. And I played this game a lot. In grad school, I lost a whole bunch of my work my first year due to some hard drive failures, and I got really depressed. And so I just played video games for like 3 months straight until they told me that I had to make something or they were going to kick me out. And so then I spent 3 days and I made this because I was playing the game. It's all I could think about. But essentially, I made a little room. I distilled the space that you played in down to what you needed and what was necessary, which was just a tiny space that fit at least 2 people. And then if you look really closely, that's my face. Their camouflage is made out of my face. You can kind of see it here in the middle image. Oops, make it bigger here. Well, can't make it that much bigger. And so the camouflage is my face. Then as part of the exhibition, I set it up so that 2 people were across from each other, and there's a minute of idle time where they just they can't move and they just have to sit there, and it goes through this idle animation like this. There's like a minute of this, and then it unlocks and you get like 3 or 4 seconds of like this chaos, and then it resets. That's all the interaction there is. And then it also will run by itself. So if no one's actively playing it, then the computer takes over and the terrorists and counter-terrorists will play themselves. And the longest I ran this for, I think it was like 2.5 weeks straight. And it became really interesting that the system was biased towards the counter-terrorists. If you let the AI run, the counter-terrorists would win twice as much as the terrorists. And that was a really interesting result that I didn't expect. I didn't even think to look for. So, but yeah, that was a fun piece. It really came around and came about really great. I was really, really happy with it. Showed it a bunch of places, but I've skipped over a ton of stuff. I play around with 3D modeling like crazy, trying to use the tools in ways that they're not meant to be used. I like to do really weird visualizations. This is a visualization of the iTunes executable before iTunes, when you could just download iTunes as a program that you would run. So like the exe for Windows. I was doing the same method that I did with the plane position array, where I would open up the exe file and then dump all that contents into a 3D model and see what happens. And it happened to be a 3D model of a guy listening to an iPod. So it's the same model, and you can kind of just see how it interacts with it. And then I gave it the material of each of the iTunes 10 release album, like whatever the app art was, the app icon. You can kind of see that it changed a little bit. You can see a little bit the model and dumped it in the environment. So for me, it's all about just like finding different ways and places and things to kind of play with. And I get an idea sometimes and I can't let it go, and I kind of just see where it leads me. And that's all stuff, like that's not even the stuff I've been working on the last year or so. And this, this all goes back into my teaching. But some of the stuff I wanted to show you guys that I've been working on recently. There's a lot of stuff. I start a lot of things that don't end up getting finished. I have a big project coming out next year that will be in Unreal. It'll be interactive. I don't know where to go with this. Sorry, I'm sitting here thinking like, what do I show you guys? Like, this is a little bit of process where, I'll start off with ideas and I'll make renders and I'll try different lighting. I'll try different positions and I'll start playing around with, okay, what does the environment actually look like? What am I trying to say? I'm trying to get different effects. It starts to come together and it feels right. And I start adding and tweaking little things, and you can kind of see this process as I'm changing stuff and adding stuff, coming into it. I guess there's chats. The longest time I've taken to complete work, God. I would say the Human Terrain Systems project. This one is the longest it took to get to a completed, what I would consider a completed project. A lot of times my projects I just walk away from. I'm just like, yeah, I'm done with this now. So Human Terrain Systems probably took me 5 years to get from when I had the original idea to when I was done. And I don't actually have any exhibitions in Omaha right now. I took COVID off. Like, once COVID happened, I had work in an exhibition in Milwaukee at a museum there. That was actually this stuff. I don't remember what was in Milwaukee. I can't remember if it was this or something different. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look. It was so long ago. And then that got postponed because all the museums shut down, and it actually just ended last month. Yeah, the impact of social media on my creative practice. So social media is really interesting. I end up doing like those sticker packs. I've been working on Instagram filters, like face filters. I did a few of those. Nothing I've released yet. I'm not super happy with them. And then last year I was up for tenure at Creighton, so I kind of just focused on that. But now that that is over and the world starts to go back to normal somewhat, then I can kind of focus on other things and get back into exhibiting. The sense of community in the arts, like Omaha is really great for this stuff. I show infrequently locally because I like to try really weird things sometimes, and not all the spaces are always cool with that. But Project and Joel and Josh have been consistently the best people to work with in town. I've been working with them for over 10 years, and it's been great. Successes and challenges. Yeah, okay. So the biggest ways support can come for an artist are money and time. If you can get money to make your work, to kind of push it, get new tools, workshops, whatever. For me, that's really important. Equipment. I mean, I make all of this stuff on really expensive equipment. Then that's great. That's, if you can get the time to do it, like that's also super important. Being able to have that time. So that's the best ways, and it's super challenging. I don't always find money. I've had grants. I've had more grants turned down than grants I've received. I've had more. I've been denied more awards and residencies than I've ever received. You know, you kind of just you learn. Hopefully, you learn kind of early to just keep going with it and to kind of just keep making your work. And then if something pops up, you have work to show. One thing I was told a long time ago that made a lot of sense and has been really valuable is never make new work for something you're applying to. Always apply to things that you already have work for. Which can be a trap that you can. I fell into for a while where I'd be like, oh, I really want to submit for this thing. I better make something new for it. And then I would just like make something that wasn't great because I was pushing it too much and trying to maybe like mold it for the opportunity, whatever it was, residency or festival or something. So the best success I've had is when I've been like, I've submitted stuff to festivals that is stuff I've had for years that I've been able to kind of come back to and tweak and whatever. So it gives you that time and that space. Oh yeah. Sorry, I just remembered kind of like what this ended up turning into. Where's that animation for this actually? Let me show you guys that. Is it this one? It is this one. Here, let's watch this. Oh, maybe it's not this one. Is it this one? There's no sound for this. So don't worry if you're not hearing anything. So this is where this started to end up. And if I remember correctly, I have no idea where I put the finish animations for this. Sorry, I'm like notoriously not organized with this stuff. I don't know where it is. When it's finished and I show you guys, then we'll find out. I don't think it's this. That can't be opened. Can we open it in something else? No, it doesn't look like it's gonna open. Oh, maybe it is. It is. Oh, but it's all really messed up. Aspect ratio is really screwed. There we go. Is this the finished piece? This might be the finished piece. I don't remember. It's obviously having some playback issues. That's not just you guys. It's playing back weird online too. Anyway, like this is not work that's done. So, you know, I wanted to show it to you guys just to kind of show you what the process looked like. But yeah, so that's like one piece. And then I had some others that kind of came about. Oh yeah, so this ended up being like this. Had another piece that came out. Like these are all the just different renders I make. And my timestamps, like my file names are all based off the date that I've been working on. So I really haven't touched anything since September. When the school year starts, it's really hard for me to get work done. Oh, I forgot about this one. I need to go back to this one. Sometimes it's good to have that space away from you. You know, you don't feel the pressure of trying to finish it. This one, so this piece right now, I'm actually rendering out as a 360 video, as a big panoramic. I can show you what those look like. Each of those frames is taking a really long time. You can see it up here. So I have been rendering I have 600 frames for this animation. I've been rendering already for 3 days, and I have 9 more days to go before it's done. But this is what the image looks like, flat. Eventually, it'll be a 360 video that you'll be inside of it. You can move the camera around and take a look at the piece. But it's a lot of fun. It just takes forever to render. The computer is sitting here figuring out what each of these images needs to look like based off of the animations and the camera movements and all of that stuff. It's like how a Pixar movie gets made. You know, that's why it takes so long for them to make them. But that's just, you know, that's flat stuff. I had some things I did with these Spark AR things are the trying to think if I have anything I can actually show you. Is this gonna show up and render? No, it's not. Yeah, okay. I didn't think so. These are the Instagram face filters I was talking about. You know, there's all kinds of stuff. One of the things I did this last year that was a lot of fun is there's a local artist, a father, who's Dustin Bouchon. He's an experimental sound designer and artist, and he had a thing at the Bemis and asked me to do visuals for it. So I've got some clips from that. So these are all live visuals. I prepared a bunch of clips ahead of time. Back. You know, I made a bunch of different tests and Blender files and renders and stuff for it. Just like opening all these things up in clips and capturing different things. I rendered some stuff out. Some stuff I just caught in camera in the program I use, what it looks like in Blender when I'm making these. And then day of, like during his performance, I made them react to his performance. I started playing around. With different shapes, and so like I'm DJing visuals in concert with the sequential response from him doing the music. It was a blast. I had so much fun with it. I hope it gives it. I think the Bemis has a recording of the whole thing. On their website. I was hunched in the corner over here somewhere next to a projector on the screen was disgusting. Just so I could see what I was doing and keep track of what he was doing. You know, it's like jazz in that sense of where you're improvising things. You've got some like, you know, chunks and composition you prepared and you're finding out different ways to come together and put them together in the moment. And it's so much fun to do. And his music and my visuals, I feel like we go together. Just like listen to all the clips that I prepared for him just being stuck together. So I can actually find. It's this one. Oh, there we go. I don't know why it's white. Oh. These were, I had a lot of fun with these. Oh yeah, this is something else I had done for this. I think I did this before this, and I repurposed it for this piece, this performance. I like these little vignettes, these little worlds. Just creating almost like little dioramas. Oh, here's the following one. And the whole thing just loops, like finding these little loops. Hiding was a lot of fun, this one. I haven't looked at these in a while. So this is great for like reminding me kind of some of the work I've done recently. It's all stuff I need to get on the website, I guess. My idea eventually, kind of what I'm working on right now, is translating these animations over to interactive spaces that you can actually explore. So like VR environments, or yeah, ideally VR environments where you can actually move around. 360 video is fine, but you know, I can do a camera path, and you just can't explore 360 video the way you would explore a VR environment, or even just a regular game environment. Oh yeah, look at that already. What's this one? Oh, this is from, I was using the chunks from other work for Dustin's too. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, there's not a whole lot else I can show because there's just not a lot that's finished yet. That's just 2020. What do I have going on in 2021? Sad things more. Oh, what is this? Oh, this one. Oh, this one I'm not anywhere near ready to show that one yet. What is this one? What did this one become? Oh, this was an idea I had. Oops. So you can kind of see some process stuff here where I'm trying out different things. But this is an idea I had. I've moved a lot in the last year. I've bought and sold a couple of houses and moved a couple of times. So it's some big life changes. And so I started playing, and I moved a lot as a kid. So I was playing around with this idea of like hermit crabs and taking your house with you. And what does a person look like when they have their house? And what does a house look like when it's a person and it moves like a person? So move this. I'm talking. And it's forgot what it was. I don't remember. And there it is. All right. And so I needed to get it out. This is like a sketch of the idea. This is not anything like the finished product, but I just needed to get out the idea, or at least see what it looked like to have a figure and have a house attached to it, and have it move in these really weird ways, and just how evocative, because you don't expect a house to distort and become soft and like pliable like a person. It should be hard and solid and movable, but what happens when it's not? So yeah, these are sketches. It's just ideas I'm working on, things I'm playing with. I have no idea what this one is. Oh yeah, this is another one. I had like an idea and a sketch, and I just started playing around. You can tell this like 20 minutes. And so far they're just not going anywhere. But that's kind of where it is. I don't know what that is. That was another idea that's not taken anywhere yet. So yeah, that is me and my work. I do a lot of experimentation. I do a lot of just playing around and messing around, and I really just like using different tools to try to get to make the ideas I have in my head tangible, holdable, feelable. So I don't have anything else to show you guys. So if there are questions, I'll take more questions. Otherwise, this has been an absolute weird experience talking to myself for an hour. Normally I can see the audience. I don't know, what do you want to do? You want to keep going?
I don't know. I think I asked all the questions that we had.